What's up everybody, Johnny over at Witchcraft Whips. Today I thought we were going to have a look at cutting some lace for other purposes than whip making, such as edge lacing for example. So we're going to have a look at a couple of different techniques and some different tools you can use and hopefully help some of you out. But before we get on to the actual video, I wanted to take a short minute just to say thank you so much to everyone who subscribed to my channel. I greatly appreciate it, and it keeps me encouraged just to continue making these videos. And if you enjoy my videos, please hit like and subscribe and let me know that you enjoy them so that I can continue to push forward. And we're back. Now, like I said in the intro, this video is primarily for those of you who do general leather crafts and uses lace from time to time for edge lacing or small braided objects or other purposes. Now what we're going to look at today is some different ways to cut the lace and to prep it. And you can use this if you want to get away from pre-cut lace, or if you just want to change the size of the pre-cut lace that you buy on a spool, and hopefully help you out in one way, shape or form. First up, we're going to have a look at a couple of different tools. Now, first off, we're going to need to cut our lace. Now, this is kangaroo, and I, as a whip maker, primarily work with kangaroo. I seldom cut lace from anything else. If you're in need of a long piece of lace, or lots of it, probably you're going to find yourself cutting around the hide in circles. And that's what I primarily do as a whip maker, because I need very long pieces of leather to plait my whips. And the tool that I primarily use for that is this Aussie strander. Very useful, quite cheap. I think they're available at Tandy. And these stranders are quite easy to use. You put your injector blade right here, and then you adjust the width of your lace by moving this fence back and forth. You can cut really wide laces, or you can cut very thin laces. Now normally I cut my laces oversized. If I need a 3mm strand, depending on the stretch of the hide, I'll cut it to about 5 or 6 mils. Then I'm going to stretch it on a hook and later resize it using a different tool. But we'll get to that further on. So just for demonstration, I'm going to cut a piece right here. Just work it like this around the hide. Now if you don't need 25-foot strands, you can probably get away with just using a straight edge and cut them directly from your hide like this. If you're just gonna lace small objects or do short braids. Now, like I said, these are for demonstration purposes, so I don't really care how wide these are. But you need to figure out how wide you need your strands to be, depending on the holes you're feeding them through, or the size and amount of strands that you're braiding. Now, if you're just cutting shorter, straight strips of leather, your strands are gonna be fairly straight. But if you cut around the hide, you're gonna find out that, especially when the hide gets a bit smaller, like this has, the original size of this hide was something like that. And these curves make themselves more known. Now, once they get, too pointed like this, you have to round them off a bit more to get a smoother curve, because you can't do a 45-degree turn, because that won't end up being very good lace. But this one I cut around the hide, so I have a curve in here. Some piece of it is quite straight, but then we went around the curve. And I'm going to show you how to get that out using the resizer tool. And also, I forgot to mention, there are other ways to cut your strands. If you're just cutting straight strips, I would use something like this and a straight edge. Going around the hide, there's the Aussie strander that I mentioned, and then there's this tool. I have no idea what it's called. I tried it once, don't like it. Or you can just use a knife. I tend to use a short electrician's mower knife, and just poke your knife through the bottom and cut your lace around the hide using your thumb as a guide. But whatever works for you. And the resizing tool that I'm talking about is this one. Now this is a very handy tool that you can use for multiple purposes. You have one side that's the resizing side, this one, and then you have the beveling side. Right here we have another injector blade, right here, and a gauge that we can move depending on the width of the size that we want. Now I'm going to move over to the other side of my desk and we're going to see how this thing works. Now on the bottom side there are two pins sticking out that conveniently fit into these two holes that I have in my desk, so which prevent this from moving. So I don't have to concentrate on keeping this in place while I'm resizing my strands. This will stay here nicely. And you can move the fence right here. You can cut very fine lace, you know, if you just want 1-2 mil lace, or you can cut quite wide strips. And to put your injector blade in there, you just release the bolts on the side, and then you can move this up or down. There we are. And normally I'm very precise with the width for my lace. So what I do, there is a scale right here, down here that you can use, but I tend to use my calipers. Now, say if I wanted to cut, say 3 mil, go for 4 mil strands. I measure 4 mils between the fence and the blade, like so. And I tighten this bolt. There we are. Now if you cut your strands around the hide, you are going to have a curve to it. And you need to find that curve right here. This side is the outer part of the curve. And when we're going to resize the strand, we want to take off the edge from the outside of the curve to eliminate the curve somewhat in the lace. And then we just put it in here and pull it through. And now we have a 4 mil piece of lace. Move the fence in a bit to cut a bit thinner strips. That. And here's another piece. This is not kangaroo. This is just, you know, your regular cowhide. And we're gonna resize that as well to get an even width. Now, like I said, this is just a test piece, but this would be good to go. You know, you might need to split it a bit if it's a bit thick, but this one is otherwise good to go for your lacing. Now, if you use precut lace, you can use this tool to resize that as well. Because if you buy 5 mil precut kangaroo lace on a spool and you find that on your project you need it to be 3 mils, you can run it through here just as well. Now I'm not a fan of pre-cut lace because as a whip maker I need to know from what part of my hide the lace come from, but for lacing it probably works just fine. Now this tool right here is made by Bevans. It's a great tool, and I'll put a link to his website in the video description if you're interested. But you know, there's a magnitude of different resizing tools available, and you can make something like this up for yourself. I actually have the first one that I made right here. Now an important note if you want to make something like this for yourself is that the angle of the blade has to be a bit angled towards the leather. And here we have a fence as well, just a piece of plastic that I shaped, and I will do the same thing here. I will just adjust, say I need a 5mm strand, like so. I would measure it off like that and tighten the wing nuts. And there we go. I can just run my strand through here now. This one, however, doesn't have any bolts on the downside, but you could put, you know, just a couple of plugs in there and drill a couple of holes in your desk, or put it into your, clamp it into your vise or whatever. But what I used to do was put a clamp onto my table like that, put this up against it, and just put my hand on it. And while I was holding the lace with my left hand, I was also holding the resizer. So I just pull my strands through like this, and this one works great. So you can make something like this up for yourself if you don't want to spend a lot of money. Oh, and I did forget to mention the beveling side. Just turn it around like this, and here we have another cut to put a blade in. This one is angled at 45 degrees to knock off the corners of your strands, and that works great. I, however, find it a bit faster and easier to do it by hand, just using a knife. But what I wanted to get to with this video is, if you want to cut your own lace, it's not that difficult. If you're gonna braid it or put tension on it, I would highly suggest that you cut your strands a bit wider than you'll need from the hide. Then you'll stretch it and then put it through the resizer to get the actual size. That way, if you pre-stretch the lace, when you put tension on it, it won't become uneven along the lace, because it stretches differently on different portions of the hide, and you want your lace to have a consistent width. So get your strands from your hide, however you choose to do it, using a knife, using scissors, using the Aussie strander, stretch them, put them through the resizer, and then you're good to go. So I hope that helps. If you have any questions, please let me know and I'll try to answer them. Please let me know if there's something special you'd like to see in my videos regarding whip making, lace cutting, or anything else for that matter, and I'll see what we can do. So take care everyone, and I'll see you later.